Good day and welcome to Space Station Live and the Christopher C. Craft Jr. Mission Control Center in Houston, Texas. On board, of course, the International Space Station's Expedition 36 crew is made up of NASA's Chris Cassidy, flight engineer for Expedition 36, Russia's Pavel Vinogradov, the commander of the expedition, and Russia's Alexander Mazurkin, another flight engineer. The trio of astronauts and cosmonauts going through a variety of different experiment work and space station maintenance activities today as they continue as a three-person crew awaiting the arrival of three more crew members the day after Memorial Day. Today, Chris Cassidy is working with the capillary flow experiment. That's a suite of fluid physics experiments that look at how they flow in the microgravity environment using containers and complex geometries. According to Mark Weisloegel, the principal investigator for this, the experiment being worked on today was involved with the vein gap experiment, and that is involving Chris Cassidy helping to map measurements by trapping the advancing and receding fluids in different gaps formed by what they call the Cassidy method. Using the approach, Cassidy quickly identified the advancing and receding limits of these fluids, and we wrote them down on the ground to monitor that and understand better how those fluids flow in orbit. Overall, the experiment is designed to help improve current computer models that are used by designers of low-gravity fluid systems and may improve fluid transfer systems for future spacecraft. Chris Cassidy also today is going to be replacing one of the hard drives on the space station support laptop computers and performing some routine checkouts of the crew medical restraint system, which would be used to hold down a crew member if they were to have a health problem or an injury and needed treatment in the microgravity environment. Meanwhile, his Russian colleagues, Pavel Vinogradov and Alexander Mazurkin, are working on installing a new treadmill in the Zvezda service module. Since the first early days of the space station, the crew has used the treadmill vibration isolation system, a U.S. designed and built specifically for spaceflight treadmill that is recessed in the floor of the Zvezda service module. That has gotten a little bit old, and the Russian crew members today are working on replacing it with a brand new Russian manufactured treadmill that should help improve the exercise capabilities aboard the space station. Chris Cassidy just completed an event in which he talked with students from the Florida Institute of Technology, as well as Associate Professor Heidi Hatfield Edwards, who is at the Florida Institute of Technology with students there who are working on a joint project with Florida Today newspaper to look at long-duration spaceflight effects on crew members. Later today, Cassie is going to have a ham radio or amateur radio pass with Anacapa School in Santa Barbara, California. Just recently, the Spartan flight controller Tony Vareja reported to flight director Jed Freeling that the power channel that was affected by last week's ammonia leak of a coolant pump on the 2B portion of the space station's solar array grouping has been restored to full functionality. That means that the 2B power channel is now back in the mix and providing a full 8 solar arrays of power to the International Space Station systems. The Chris Cassidy, along with recently departed Tom Marshburn, conducted a 5.5-hour spacewalk just 2 days after the ammonia leak was noticed in that area on the port side of the space station's truss structure, and successfully replaced a pump control module. And so far, the flight controllers that are monitoring that systems are seeing no signs of any leaks. They have seen that the replaced pump module, the old pump module, has completely leaked out its ammonia supply and is no longer leaking any more of that ammonia. They have seen no new leaks reported from the new pump module, which is working well and allowing that 2B channel to be put back into the power systems of the space station. It's going to take a month and a half or so before they can validate that all leaks have been removed, because there's one very small pesky leak that they want to make sure, and it's going to take some trending data to determine whether that's fixed. During crew sleep tonight, Mission Control is going to be performing a checkout of the Backup Control Center in Huntsville, Alabama. That control center associated with the Payload Operations Integration Center is the second tier of backup locations where Mission Control Houston would relocate in the event of a hurricane or another disaster here in Houston, which is on the Gulf Coast. And meanwhile, at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, NASA's Karen Nyberg, the European Space Agency's Luca Parmitano, and Russian Soyuz commander Fyodor Yurchikhin are making final preparations for their launch to the International Space Station on May 28, when they will join the trio that's on orbit and round out the normal six-person crew.